Good evening, everyone. We are starting the March 19th, 2025 Finance Committee meeting. We have the Community Preservation Act Committee with us. They'll start off our meeting. I will turn it over to you, Sue, to make introductions and then launch right into your presentation.
Okay, so here's our, so this is Dave Swanson and I'm Sue Docto, and we're the new co-chairs, so please bear with us. And we also have Christine Bongiorno and Lauren Costa, who are working with us, very much appreciated. And Clarissa Rowe is our vice chair now. She stayed on as former chair to hold our hands. And then Alexander Franzosa makes our presentations. So next slide, please. Fiscal 2026, you all know that. Next slide. The CPA funds projects in specific categories: community housing, open space and recreation, and historic preservation. Next slide, please. So we are required to use 10% of our money each year at least on each category. And then we can use up to 5% on administrative expenses. We tend to use less. And then the 65% remaining is flexible. Go ahead.
And maybe just a comment on this year, we received, I think, 12 final applications in total. We ended up proposing to fund 11 of them. And the total requested amount in funding, I think, was just north of 3.1 million for a budget of around 2.7 million this year. So we had to make some difficult decisions around a few of the projects, which we'll talk through.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Okay, so next, these are the housing projects. We received a request from the Arlington Housing Authority for upgrading the fire alarm system in Winslow Towers. It's 30 years old, and it needed a lot of work to bring it to code. This is a very high priority project for them to protect the building and the tenants. And one point we wanted to make clear was that the Arlington Housing Authority, besides requesting, and we're recommending $275,132 from us, they also raised $452,582 from the state. So we always like to see those matching funds, obviously. Next project. The Arlington Affordable Housing Trust Fund. What they requested was $750,000 to carry on their ongoing work to create and preserve affordable community housing in Arlington, and in CPA language, that's affordable housing. So one thing about the trust fund compared to other projects is this is a support function. We support the trust fund, so the money is very flexible. They can't tell us exactly what they're going to do with it. The idea is to have it available so they don't have to go, so that they can act on opportunities as they arise. So they previously received 2 grants from us, $620,000. They explained to us how they used it. They used it for 3 specific projects to promote actual creation of affordable housing. And they have 95,000 remaining. So that is, did you want to add anything? Okay. So now I'll turn it over to Dave.
Yeah, we have 4 projects we're proposing to fund in the open space and recreation category. The first is public lands tree survey for $50,000. This was requested by the open space committee. And I guess I would add notably that it's a list of 44 selected parcels of land from the public land management plan based on appropriateness and treeless parcels and those that have already been surveyed in recent years were understandably omitted. The desire here, I think, is to better understand through a data-driven approach the state of our trees so that we can plan for recreational spaces, habitat preservation, and community engagement initiatives that promote sustainable.
Can you speak a little louder, please?
Sure, happily. That I think the purpose here is to use a data-driven approach to better understand the state of our tree canopy so that we can plan for recreational spaces, habitat preservation, and community engagement initiatives that promote sustainable land use. The next project in this space, next slide, is the Urban Wilds Initiative for $75,000. This was submitted by the Department of Planning and Community Development. It involves 14 Conservation Commission properties, and the $75,000 will be used as seed money aimed at enhancing the ecological integrity of those properties. The goal here is several-fold. It's to introduce native climate resilient plantings to improve habitat quality, to create passive recreation features such as paths and benches to make these sites more accessible to the community, and to add visual identity and educational signage to highlight the environmental importance of these areas. The next next project in this category is the McLennan Park Community Garden for $250,000 submitted by the Arlington Parks and Recreation Department. This project will create 50 new community garden plots to meet the overwhelming demand for gardening space in Arlington. As you may know, there's 2 existing community gardens, and as you may or may not know, the wait list for those gardens currently is over 250 residents, so there is high demand and interest in these activities. And as I probably don't have to tell this group, community gardens provide a number of benefits that environmental, health, and social benefits, in addition to promoting sustainable food practices. The last project in this category, next slide, is the McLennan Skate Park, also submitted by the Arlington Parks and Rec Department. Here we adjusted the amount due to the budget constraints that we stated at the beginning to $545,000 roughly. That portion of the amount will be used for the park's concrete foundation, which has deteriorated and now makes it unsafe for use. And so the hope is that CPA funding can be used for foundation repairs as well as some replacement equipment to begin to get this project moving forward.
And can I just add
Sure, of course.
that the applicant, Natasha, we asked the applicants, if we cut your budget, can you still do this project? Can you do part of it? Can you do an important part of it? And she stressed the need for the foundation and not to break that up, to get that done, to get some equipment. And she also said there's an enthusiastic group of users, and she was hoping they might be able to do some fundraising to buy more equipment. But at least it'll have the safe foundation and starter equipment. Oh, it's my turn. Okay. So now we're in historic preservation. So the Cyrus Dallin Museum, this is a repeat grant. They've gotten grants from us in the past. And the overall goal, it's an ongoing effort to preserve historic documents related to Cyrus Dallin, not only to preserve them, but also to digitize them and make them available to the public. So they've done a really nice job so far on this, and there is already public database that's searchable. You can go explore some of the documents. So they gave us that link in the application so we could see what they've done so far. So here the historic resource is the documents. Next, this is really unique. It's the Arlington Veterans Oral History Project. And so here the historic resource is really the memories of Arlington's veterans and their families. And so a group of volunteers working with ACMi created a pilot video, which was interviewing Arlington veterans and their families. And there's a QR code so you can actually see this video. It's really great. Like you see people you know, it's very nice and very lively. So they would like to continue this project and expand and have a year of interviews and produce continue to produce professional grade video and share it with the public in a variety of ways that they discuss. So that is a $25,000 grant. And then next is Jason Russell House, a small grant. They've had several grants from us to preserve Jason Russell House, and they've done a really nice job accounting for the funds, planning very carefully the restoration. And this is to cap the chimney, basically, to preserve the building, to protect against water leakage, and also to preserve some of the resources that are in the attic, the historic artifacts. Next.
To round out the historic preservation category with two more projects, the Parmenter exterior preservation submitted by the town of Arlington. This would be for $500,000 to fund phase one of a multi-phase restoration project at the Parmenter School. The Parmenter School is a 1926 built building that currently houses the Arlington Rec Department as well as a preschool. There was a 2023 assessment done to identify the work that would be needed from a restoration standpoint. It identified significant exterior damage requiring phased repairs. And so the recommendation here is to start with the roof, the chimney, the gutters, and some of the external structures to protect from further deterioration. Next slide. The second historic preservation project submitted also by the town is the town hall building envelope for $300,000. This project will advance restoration of our 1912 town hall, an architecturally significant and heavily used municipal building. It's obviously owned and operated currently by the town of Arlington. It's protected by a preservation restriction. We have previously funded it through CPA funds, in particular to remove the deteriorating clock tower and stop severe water damage to the Lions hearing room. And working with our partners in town, we will likely engage in discussions around potential bonding for, I think, future funding purposes, because this is likely to be multi-phase, estimated at $10 million in total for the entirety of the restoration. So with that, next slide. And so in total, and I think sort of where we started, we ended up having 12 final applications. We funded 11 of them. 2 of them were funded at an amount slightly under that was requested in order to adhere to the 2.7 million roughly estimated budget.
And the 2 that were funded under were both the highest requests. And as I said before, we spoke with the applicants about whether they could do something significant with less.
I'm happy to talk more, take questions.
Questions, Paul?
On your previous slide about town hall, was that a typo where it said that it was the art museum?
Yeah, I think it was. And thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
We'll get that fixed for the
There, now it's
final
fine.
presentation.
Yeah, only 4
Okay,
people
so, yeah.
reviewed this.
And my question is, so what is the balance in money that has been put aside in previous years? The fund balance.
The fund balance.
Oh, turnbacks and,
But, one of the things you're able to do is put money aside instead of you spending it all at once, you could put it aside for future years.
yeah, there are turnbacks there, the 330,748 that we used.
I'm happy to
Yeah.
just speak to that. We can pull up the number. I wouldn't say that they've ever held a significant amount of funding back. They generally are giving out the funds each year. There may be a little bit more given by the state. You know, they may have said, the committee may have said, we'll get a 20% match from the state, and then they end up getting 25%. So we may have a little bit of funding in the balance. We're happy to pull that up, but we'll have to send that to you tomorrow. Or send it to Mikhail.
And I would just add to that, this year, I think is emblematic of the long 2-year tenure that Sue and I have been on the committee, in the sense that just as in the past 2 years, we've received more requests for funding than the budget allows. And so we've tried to maximize the use of those existing funds for community projects.
But we do get surprises along the way when people don't spend it all, and a really good example was the Herd Field project. There was 400,000 that wasn't needed, and it did eventually come back to us.
Anything else, Paul?
No, thank
Charlie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 3 questions. And I realize that they're not necessarily directly in the purview of the CPA committee, but I'm wondering how much digging into the requests that you actually did. And the first one is with respect to the Housing Trust Fund. You mentioned that they spent $600,000 in the past. Can you tell us what they spent it on?
Yes. I need to just pull that up. What happened, the town had a lot of ARPA funds, so they also worked with the town to use ARPA funds for some significant affordable housing projects. But what they used CPA money for was a $250,000 loan to the Housing Corp of Arlington for the 10 Sunnyside project, which is a major project being created in East Arlington. And then they also gave a $250,000 loan to HCA, which had the opportunity to acquire another multifamily building that's going to result in, it has 57 apartments. And so this was to supplement the HCA loan from the, or grant from the ARPA funds of about $1.8 million. And then the third thing they used it for is there's a private party that received a grant, an ARPA grant, to acquire a 2-family building. And they're putting an affordable deed restriction. It's a 30-year restriction for the 2 affordable units. And they needed some supplementary funds of $25,000. So that's what the trust fund used it for. So they did those 3 grants or loans. And so that's why they have $95,000 left.
Thank you.
Sure.
The second question has to do with the McLennan Park. And you mentioned that the foundation had deteriorated. My recollection is that park is not that old.
Oh.
Why is the foundation deteriorated?
I think it's about 20 years old. Yeah.
19 years.
Yeah.
That's just a few moments in my life.
Yeah, I know. That's a little less than I've lived in that area, and I remember my neighbor helped her, and her son helped get that in there, and it seemed new, but I know it's been a long time.
Do you know what the expected life is?
I don't. Does anybody? The expected life? No.
The third question is, why is the Parmenter School historic?
It's in a historic district, and it was built in 1926.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, what was it, Phil?
a lot of buildings that built in
1926. It's on the
1926.
historic
I
register.
mean, does it have artistic value or something?
Yeah, if you, I would say it does. I was part of the documentation team. You can scroll back to the picture. It has some period perfect classical detail. It's not a scroll, it's the wreath at the top, the columns, the lintels over the windows. This is a building that really announces loudly this is classicism of the 1920s. It's like a pitch perfect example of that architectural style and moment.
Wasn't that also the period of Art Deco and also Mussolini's,
You get different,
Realism?
you get different strains, you get different strains at every time. That was the staid conservative flavor of municipal architecture at the time.
I think City Hall was just a clear up.
Yeah, well, was it really?
In Boston City Hall.
Thank you very much.
John.
Yeah, so I'm kind of following up with Charlie's question, just a little bit more about the money to the homeless, to the affordable housing. And yeah, I was looking at last year's presentation, and I think was there $500,000 to one specific building?
Yeah, they didn't request anything last year. They had it 2 years prior.
Yeah.
The Affordable Housing
Yeah,
Trust.
so this is
yeah.
completely separate from that.
Well, we can get separate requests from Arlington Housing Authority or the Housing Corp of Arlington. So sometimes we grant requests directly to them, but they're on the timeline of town meeting, of course.
Yep.
So with the Housing Trust, they have voluntarily, they've decided to give grants or loans to the HCA in particular. And for example, 1 year for the Sunnyside project, HCA asked us for $750,000, and I forgot what the Affordable Housing Trust asked, but they asked us for $250,000, and then they said, we will give ours to them. So what the director of the HCA said is that this can be powerful because it shows that two local entities are supporting the project. So it helps with state matching, the state funds, to know that there's local support. So
You're talking about the housing that was funded last year.
the 10 Sunnyside, that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, but also I think there was another $500,000 last year.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Do you
That was the
remember?
housing group, Sunnyside.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, additional work on 10 Sunnyside, yes. They first came to us with 10 Sunnyside 2 years ago.
Got it, I know a little bit more last year,
yeah.
but none this year.
This year they did not get an they were working on the multifamily and they didn't have a chance to put in an application, but they also got this loan from the Affordable Housing Trust.
Got it, and so, and then
Yeah.
in summary, so the money this year is more like discretionary, it doesn't have a specific use?
Yes, and so what we asked them, because of course, at the beginning, it was like, what are they gonna do with it? It's a little vague, right? So Dave and I have worked with them all along, we've been liaisons, and we've really said, please tell us how you've spent it so far and how you might spend it in the future, because if another opportunity comes up, they may choose to do that instead. So we want them to establish a track record, and so that we have confidence, because they're basically acting on our behalf, so that we don't have to review every single project.
But could it be rent subsidies, could it be to put shovels in the ground,
Yes.
anything in between?
Yeah, and let me see what they said. They said, so one of the 3 goals they have with this money is they want to reach out and find developers who want to develop affordable housing projects. And they want to work with them to help facilitate their projects.
Yep.
So they need to do an outreach, and to have credibility, they have to have some money to say, that we have a pot of money that we can work with you to help facilitate your project. And they really want to prioritize projects that leverage other sources of funding, which the HCA is a great example, because millions come in with this relatively small amount of our local money.
Yeah, and I would say part of the challenge from the CPAC's perspective, right, is that if you miss from a timing perspective the opportunity to provide funding for an affordable housing project, let's take the HCA as an example, and they missed sort of our just cyclical application deadline as they did this year, it just didn't line up project-wise. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund has provided, I think, the CPAC a unique opportunity, granted to just echo Sue's point, it's been a bit of a trust building exercise, right? We initially provided some funds, wanted to see how they would invest those. They've come back with a robust series of investment and can point to outcomes clearly under the goal of affordable housing and
This will provide more flexibility.
Yes, it makes it nimble. And like the people with the 2-family, right, like they could never have gotten that from us because of the timing.
Yeah.
And now we have 2 units that are deed restricted for 30 years that private party wanted to create, so that's a nice partnership.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'll toss.
My question's been answered.
Okay, Jordan.
Yeah, my question is just on the town hall building envelope, so I'm glad to see that made it on the list. I know there's a lot of issues with town hall and that this is just addressing the building envelope, and was just looking for more information on like what will be done as part of the building envelope, and just maybe looking ahead. I know that to fix all the problems at town hall, it's not necessarily CPA money, that's a good funding source, but I'm curious if there was any conversation about maybe multi-year requests for town hall. So I'm just genuinely curious what the plan is.
I can take it, sure. We broke this project up into different phases. We anticipate this to be about a $10 million project. This is to address the exterior of the building, to weatherize, make sure that water isn't leaking into the building, which is our biggest issue at the moment. With a $10 million project, we're required to hire an OPM, an owner's project manager. That's 3% of the anticipated project cost, that's $300,000. The next phase after the OPM would be a designer, so that's about 10%. So we're expecting to spend about $1 million in the second year. And then the third year would be the 10 million request. It's possible that this is more than 3 years. We may have a slight delay one of those years. We also may learn in the first year from the OPM that it's a $3 million project. We're putting this together based on the initial evaluation that was done in 2022. There's a 75-page document, which I'm happy to post online for anyone to review if you're interested. It just goes over some of the areas of concern, just a very basic historic preservation assessment. There were drones and photos taken, and the estimates were put into this report as well. That's where we came up with at the time it was a $7 to $8 million estimate, and with time we anticipated being about the $10 million project.
No, that's great to know, and I appreciate that explanation. And so it sounds like the 300,000, it's really just to do some very basic work to make sure that it's waterproof at this point, and then in future years, taking care of the larger issues, like in what you described. Like I appreciate that an estimate from a few years ago is not probably going to be accurate in this current building construction climate, and certainly, the further you put things off, it's only going to get more and more expensive in future years. So
just to clarify, the 300,000 will be for the OPM. We will not even start any until the actual construction phase.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
So it is for the hiring of an OPM. Okay.
And that's required.
Yeah.
That's required for that kind of project.
So it's OPM 3% of the project cost, then designer 10%, and then construction. So it's a few years out until the building envelope is addressed.
I do public sector procurement, so I understand your process. So I just wanted to know what the 300 was.
Right.
So,
And
thank
you
you.
remember last year, right? Last year it was 300,000, and the clock tower was removed because there's leakage into the Lion hearing room.
Right.
And the clock tower was removed, and it was scanned so that it could be reproduced in the future, and it was sealed. And then some work was done inside the hearing room right now.
Michael.
These are all great projects.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering the query that I had about the total sheet of applications. And appreciate seeing, CPA legislation is coming up on 25 years old right now. The initial match rate that the legislation offered towns and cities to voluntarily increase their taxes was 100%. 10 years ago, when Arlington decided to get into this, there were more towns, more people drawing, it was in the 60s. What's the match rate now?
What we have, is 15 point,
For FY '25, the match was 15.9%.
I know, it's hard.
Do you guys get enough applications? I ask that because these are all good projects. But they're all the same old applicants. And it seems to me like we're not evaluating these on creative thinking, but town manager lays off the very first work on the town hall building envelope on CPA. Parks and Rec lay off a piece of McLennan on CPA. In fact, when I remonstrated with Capital Planning Committee for not having anything in here about town hall, I just got looks. Nobody said, oh, by the way, there's $300,000 coming from somebody else. So my first question is, do you get enough applications from people that want to do different things with money?
I mean, I think we definitely get enough applications because they're always in our history been higher than what we have to give out. As far as the same old applicants, I think, well, first of all, if we can do open space and recreation, there's a short list of applicants that would be bringing this forth, but they're a diverse set of projects. So that's okay. We've had a few one-off applicants. One was the Arlington Friends of the Drama, and they had very significant preservation project, and they've gotten what they wanted.
Yep.
They got Mass Save money to match it. They took less than we had given them, and so that's a nice historic resource. It isn't town owned, it's somewhat independent. Yeah.
Very good, rejoinder.
I think the word gets out and people bring projects.
The way the CPA was sold 25 years ago was, this is going to save historic houses from getting destroyed. This is going to save the last green spot in a town from being paved over for a parking lot or a tower. This is going to do what the private sector doesn't. And these are public sector projects. We certainly haven't been acquiring buildings, historic buildings at the point of demolition. Not the Queen Anne at the corner of Walnut and Mystic. Woodhouse next to CVS yesterday. The Wynn family homestead on Summer Street.
Well, we would welcome the applications. I think.
I guess I would just add, the question you're posing sounds like the right one, and it sounds like a public policy-based question that to us we can opine on, and I would say, would we welcome more diverse applicant pool? Absolutely. Could we publicize CPA funding as a source to a wider scope of potential applicants? Absolutely. Is there some benefit to having applicants that we've worked with historically? Absolutely as well.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with you, but it is it feels like a debate for a slightly different forum.
But something to certainly bear in mind, and I think to publicize the CPA as much as possible, that's a good thing to do. Like these signs, like the Arlington Reservoir, people love it. I love it. It's a wonderful improvement, and there's signs all over that the CPA helped to fund this, and I mean, that's an example, it's the same old applicant, but it's a really dynamic change to an
You have the
area that people
ability to
really love.
decide, no, none of
Yeah.
these, or not all of these projects are meeting what we would like to have them do, we're gonna bank the money for another year.
Yes, we certainly can decide that, as long as we do the 10%, and even the 10% can go into a fund to be
Right.
reserved.
And we're
for
not
that.
just gonna pass it along to somebody else to have a line of credit
Yeah.
on acquiring, affordable housing projects. We're gonna make them, create new
Yeah,
affordable housing.
but of the Downing Square project and the Broadway project of HCA, beautiful projects, brand new apartments. I mean, CPA was a small part monetarily, but it helped them bring the state money, and I mean, I think that's fantastic, that projects like that could be created. Because that is a lot more housing and they're nice buildings, so.
Okay, more questions,
Yeah.
Rebecca, then Jennifer, and then Topher.
Thank you. Just a brief question. What was the 12th application that you weren't able to fund? You said you did 11.
Yep, it's, what was the name of it? It was
It's from the
from the Arlington Historic, Commission, and the Historical Society. And it was doing a coring study of Spy Pond to get geological information about the history of Spy Pond.
Okay.
And honestly, it was a fascinating project. It wasn't a lot of money by CPA standards. The vote was not unanimous. And there were a variety of opinions expressed, but one that was a concern is that it wasn't a historic preservation. It was a scientific research activity.
Thank you very much.
Just a quick question. I had noticed that you got a lot more money last year than you had originally anticipated. I'm just wondering the story behind that. Were your estimates lower to be conservative, or was there a particular thing that happened?
The state match.
What, the state match? Yeah, the state match, yes.
We are conservative in our numbers.
It's just so you're usually conservative and usually, okay. That's it.
Topher.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. So yeah, on the skate park, so you're saying you have to take the existing concrete, remove it and pour new concrete?
Yeah,
And that's because it's unsafe in some way?
our understanding is that it's unsafe.
The Parks and Rec Department did an
Yeah.
assessment. They had an assessment
I
done.
mean, it's unsafe. Well, I mean, is it just because it's uneven concrete? I was over there looking at it and I was kind of scratching
We can
my head.
share their assessment with
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
committee.
That'd be good information.
I think the CPA just reviews their application.
Yeah. No, I understand. I was just not sure if it was some new substance or something that, fell on it, maybe more forgiving than, concrete.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't sound like it is.
Alan Jones.
Two questions, but I also wanted a little anecdote from Michael. A few years ago, I lived next to the crusher lot and we thought it'd be a really good idea to do a survey, inventory of the trees. And brought it to CPA and CPA said, well, maybe we should do that around town. And then Hills Hill Project did an inventory. It turned out a really good example. And then Open Space picked it up and now it's gonna be a townwide thing. So it's just an example of where I like to think I planted the seed for that. And it's a better price, but questions are, I was listening to the hearing on the Parmenter School. And there was some question about whether work on the more modern addition was historic preservation, but I don't know how that landed, so.
We got an opinion from legal and because it's part of the same structure, it would be considered.
Okay, so this funding is for the
Yes.
whole building, not just the
Yes.
over. And the second question about the oral history project. Did you mention the, gonna be happening through ACMi?
They will
ACMi
have-
involved?
They will be required to, the Veteran Services Department will be required to put out an RFP for that. So
Okay.
they were working with ACMI.
Because when I think of an oral history project, I think of sitting down with a tape recorder, and I don't know how you spend $25,000. But I'm wondering if this is this sort of thing is a potential source of revenue for ACMI, because we know that they need funding. So I guess that's my question. It sounds like there's a possibility that
It's
some of this
possible that ACMI,
could go
they will be
towards
required.
ACMI as a form of revenue.
they got an initial quote from ACMi, but they'll be required to go out to bid for that.
Okay,
Where it's 25,000.
so there are possibilities for ACMi to earn some money from the public sector. Thank you.
And there's an ACMI, I forgot his name, person who was involved in the pilot.
Mhm.
And he, I think, has left, he's retired, and he is still
Or
gonna
jump
be
on.
involved as a volunteer, because he's excited about it.
Yeah,
I think
and we could
he's-
share the QR code as a
Yeah,
follow-up. It gives you a real nice sense of what they're trying to accomplish, I think.
They said 25,000 seems like a lot of money for a Normal History project, but if some of that goes to ACMI, I'm happy.
Any other questions for the CPA? Charlie?
Going back to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, does anyone know the governance structure outside of, in other words, who does the trust fund report to? The town manager, the select board, or nobody?
That's a great question.
It's their own board,
it's a
isn't it?
great question.
Was it, okay,
The board.
we'll have to,
Yeah,
yeah, I wouldn't, I don't think they report. They work with the planning department, but I'm not sure who they report to, so we
I'm
can
just
certainly
wondering,
look
you
into
know,
it.
the numbers that of the funding that's going in there is, you know, substantial.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely have representation from the select board, they have a member, Eric Hellman. But,
Or maybe you can get that information.
Yeah,
we'll get that.
yeah,
Along
sure,
with,
yeah.
what
Definitely.
Topher was asking about the skate park, if you can get
Yeah.
supply that to Kaya, she can circulate it to the rest of us.
Great.
Does anyone
Thank
have
you.
any other questions? I have a question on McLennan Gardens. When McLennan was first designed and planned, gardens were included.
yes,
And then the neighbors was told, no, we can't because it's a capped toxic waste site. Has there been an analysis as to why we can do it now, we couldn't do it when the park was still first built?
well, it includes raised beds, and, yeah, that's taken into account. That was my question too during the hearing, that's taken into account. It's, raised beds, and also importantly, raised beds for accessibility for people with disabilities so that they can garden, so
More
there's,
inclusive.
yeah, more inclusive.
Carolyn and then Dean.
What was the original number of plots that they were planning? Because there's only 15 right now.
It's,
The original, I mean, this is for,
it's 50,
this is for
50 now,
Oh, it's 50.
It's
Yes.
5-0.
but they
50,
did
okay.
cut it down, you're right. They cut, their preliminary application was for twice as much money, I forget how much more plots,
Okay.
but they cut down the area,
Okay, but it's 5-0,
Yeah,
that's
it's 5-0.
about the same as Magnolia, which is where I have a plot.
Oh,
why I
okay.
asked. Because I was thinking 15 is not very many.
Yeah, 5-0.
It's 5-0.
And where's this gonna be located?
It's, there's in their, application, there's a map, but it's nearly the same place that was proposed way back when. That's what they said.
Flossie, did you have a question?
Well, I just was reading about the Affordable Housing Trust. It's under state law, 8-member board, 1 member of the select board, 1 tenant of moderate housing, 2 representatives from local housing organizations. That's about all it lists, but it's a town body under state law.
Paul?
And I found one other thing about it is there's a whole state law that says what they can do and what they can't do, and so it's not like they can just go and do anything they want with the money. They are restricted in certain things.
Right, Dean?
Are you taking motions?
Yes, I am.
That's okay. Could you scroll to the part with all the money on it? You know, I used to have much better vision, unfortunately. So I move that the Finance Committee, I think the word is endorse, we don't approve. Endorse the CPA Committee's recommended vote of $2,717,855.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in the affirmative. 16 in the affirmative, any negative votes and abstentions? 1 and 2.
I'm abstaining because I'm part of some of the beneficiaries.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This is the presentation, we appreciate it.
Thank you
I
very much.
appreciate it as well.
Thank you for all the questions.
Sure. In prior years, we've just voted that the Finance Committee endorses the projects recommended by the Community Preservation Committee. We haven't actually put a,
I couldn't figure out which one it was. I stood up and then I forgot what the vote was. Yeah.
Nice to meet you, please have a seat. All right, on to the next issue. Gentlemen, on to the next issue. We have the chair of the Civilian Police Advisory Commission. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your mission and what you're looking for from us.
My name is Jennifer Davidson Hernandez, and I'm the new chair of the Police Advisory Commission. We've had some people leave in the past month or two, so we're kind of regrouping. And pretty much what the commission does, it's a group of community volunteers that meets regularly with the chief of police and kind of bridging the gap between the community and the police department. We also give our opinion and advise on certain police policies and discuss neighborhood specific issues. And we put together, this is the first year for the commission, and it's kind of moved along a bit slowly, but because there was never one before this. So we proposed a small budget hoping that it would enable us to kind of move along better and get the word out, because I don't think it's well known about the commission and its new status. So
How many members are on the commission?
right now, it's changed, so I have no idea right now because we just lost 3 in the past month.
When you're fully,
I'd have to check that out. Just because I just became the chair, so in the last meeting. But it's made up of different groups throughout the community. Family housing has a spot, the LGBTQIA, the Disability Commission, Human Rights. So there's a lot of different commissions in the town that have representation.
and you're asking for $6,000.
Mm-hmm.
All right, questions, Dean?
No, it's actually more of a comment. So I know you took over as chair, okay?
Yeah.
These are important committees. You're doing great, okay?
Mhm.
I know you probably don't feel like that right
No,
now.
not at all.
I've been on this finance committee for like 20 years. You're doing great.
Thank you.
It's okay. We'll just get this budget. It's gonna be fun.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question, Sophie?
Well, I want to point out, because you're new and it's a new committee, I noticed that there's reference to the Disability Commission and their 20,000, but historically, there's an agreement based on, historically by law, they're required to get a certain amount based on fines collected.
Mhm.
So it's not that they're given this to do outreach and that kind,
Okay.
it's not comparable
Okay, gotcha.
legally, I don't think.
Perfect. Thank you.
Other questions, Topher?
Yeah, a few questions. So I was looking at the types of review boards that exist, and is yours, there's like review-based, there's investigation-based, there's audit-based. What is this one?
Good question. Good question. So I really have no idea. I don't think I've even heard it discussed at one of the meetings. I'd have to ask maybe Colleen Legier, she would probably know that better.
All right. In terms of the budget itself, you said there's training, there's I think 1,200 for police training.
Yeah,
But the police have a budget of about $65,000 for training. So is this, I was trying to figure out, I was reading your minutes, is this money to cover police overtime for them to train you?
yeah, I mean, so we had one police training, already.
Yeah, I think the chief covered that overtime.
Yeah,
But I'm wondering, because I mean, if it's just training for the police, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me that there would be funding it from another entity, especially when they have a $65,000 training budget.
right.
Okay, and then the other one was, there was, outside training, for, equity type things, but we have a DEI department, so why wouldn't they do the training?
No idea. No idea.
Do you know if anyone has asked, the
So
department?
that I don't know because the chairperson and the vice chair both have stepped down from the commission. And it kind of happened without too much notice. And I haven't been able to speak to either of them.
Let me ask this question, and I appreciate that you're in a difficult spot because you're just been thrust into this position.
Literally. I
I
volunteered though, I volunteered to be thrust because if we didn't have a chairperson, then we wouldn't have a commission, so.
And thank you.
Exactly.
No,
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
It may or may not make it, I'm not sure, because we have to now replace these members and, but I figured we might as well give it a go.
Sure. And I think everyone would support that. My question is, who prepared this budget?
It was done at the, I believe the October meeting.
Of the commission?
Yeah. And pretty much it was done and then not really talked about too much afterwards.
Do you have a follow-up, Tony?
Yeah, I just wanted to say on that, the minutes of I went through the minutes of your commission. It shows in sort of September, October, there was some discussion of like what people wanted and adding in the conference and some things like that. So it looked like the previous the previous incarnation of the committee had some discussions around it.
Yeah, they pretty much came up with, everything that's on the budget and, I think everyone kind of, they did their research, so we were made to understand, so it was kind of, we had trust in the fact that they had done the research and, everything was fine, so, but didn't have too much part in it.
Michael, then Carolyn, and then Rebecca.
Mine's been answered, thank you.
Carolyn.
So I pulled up the website and, there's a whole, commission bylaws. I'm not opening that, but it says that section 5, duties and responsibilities, general duty is, it shall be the duty of the Arlington Civil Police Advisory Commission to serve as qualified advisors to the general public, the Arlington Police Department and other town staff with respect to policing in Arlington from a civilian perspective. So it makes sense that you would be getting training because you're supposed to be qualified advisors.
Rebecca?
Thank you. Did I understand correctly that you work with Colleen Leger?
Yes, she does, she's been helping out with the commission.
Great, so that seems like at least we do have a paid staff
Yeah, she's
person in town for
fantastic.
continuity, even if the
Yeah,
commission is short. Thank you.
Eltost.
yeah, she's been fabulous. Spoke to her today.
So how many members are supposed to be on it and how many members do you have now? And why did the 3 leave?
It wasn't made very clear. I was actually kind of surprised when I got onto the meeting and 3 people were leaving. I was like, when did this happen?
They voted to make you chair before you came, and then they left.
No, they left. They left, and I was like, and they're like, oh well, we can't move forward. And I'm like, well, if we don't have a chair, and there was 2 other people in that meeting, I believe, and then Colleen, and I was just like, neither of them volunteered, and I was just like, okay then, well, we need to do this, so we've put in a lot of work so far, and so we need to see if we can keep it going, and I don't like to just, my name's on it too, so, you know, I wanna see it succeed. And, no one wants to fail, so we're gonna keep trying and see what happens. And obviously, if we don't succeed, then the money goes back to whatever we're allowed.
Anything else?
Which one?
John?
So this board has been around for a couple of years, right?
No.
It's brand new?
Yeah.
So it doesn't, just,
It's,
There's a study.
Mhm.
I thought I heard about, I guess I've heard about it the last year or so, but it's not.
There was a study done, I'm bad with timing, but there was a study done initially, and I was the president of the tenant association at Family Housing at the time. So they had offered for us to go on to the study, and so of course I did, and that got us a seat on the commission. So that was done, and then,
So what year was that? I'm just curious, 'cause
let's see, 2021 is when the tenant association we had the tenant association.
I think that's when I first started hearing about this board, but the board is, you'd say the board is.
No. So there was an initial study done, and then there was quite a bit of time that went by before anything happened.
So you'd almost say it doesn't even exist yet, it's about to,
It's-
it's kind of like just starting.
Yeah, it totally is just starting.
Okay, 'cause
And
I was gonna
it's moved
ask
along
about-
quite slowly also because, like, one of the meetings we were discussing, like, how to move forward. And some people were feeling like we were moving too fast, and some people felt like we were moving too
Yeah.
slow. And I'm like, well, I just think we just need to get it right. So,
Yeah.
you know, whether we need to move faster or slower, we need to get it right and not have to go back and redo things. So,
Yeah, I was gonna ask about just like productive discussions you may have had with the chief or with the police, but it sounds like, you know, to be determined, right? I can ask that question next year.
yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to
Okay.
answer more questions. If I'm even chairperson by then, who knows?
You're gonna be great.
Who knows if I may or may not be, who knows if they keep me, but it is what it is. We'll do the best we can and try and get some organization here.
Charlie?
I piss.
Paul?
Just two things. One is, according to their website, 2022 town meeting created the committee, and the first meeting was on February 21st, 2024. So it is essentially a year old.
That ties with what she just said, yeah.
Topher?
I was just gonna say, to add to that, I think it took a long time for some bodies to appoint the people that they were supposed to appoint.
You know, the family housing, we had someone who volunteered to do so and then backed out. So then I wasn't gonna leave the seat open, that wouldn't have been right. So, because we were appreciative to have the seat. So, of course, I volunteered.
Dave?
Just a point of information, COVID-19 stopped the development, and it got waylaid for a while. Now it's back, so there's no COVID-19, and now you can just point.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dave.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you, and we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for coming
Thank
to
you for
talk to us.
stepping up.
No problem. I hope I have better information next time. Thank you so much.
Alright. Let's do budgets, the last remaining budgets, we'll start with solid waste.
So we don't have anything on the screen, but I've just sent people by email, the new budget, and I will you can look at the old budget, I'll tell you the new numbers. Solid waste responsible for collecting garbage, recycling yard waste, construction material, food scraps, and hazardous waste.
What page is it on?
Is 105, I think, in the budget.
But the new numbers are on the screen now.
Oh, great, their new numbers are on the screen, yes, okay. So as many of you know, we are negotiating a new contract. And also, as many of you know, we don't know who it's going to be with yet.
I'm sorry, those are the old numbers.
Oh, okay, you're right, those are the old numbers. I just sent it by email. So we don't know who the new contract is, we do know a few things. One of the things we know is that we will be using toters. We know that we will the new waste provider will no longer be picking up large items free. There'll be a way to pick up large items, but people will have to contact the company and pay for that. And we know it's gonna cost more. And just as a historical background for people who are new to this, the contract that we had before was unprecedentedly low, right? It was basically because Republic, when they went to buy up a bunch of these smaller companies, they bought up JRM, yeah. They could make a better deal if they had more towns. And so they gave Arlington a very good deal for a few years because their bid was more competitive by having more towns. That deal has ended. So basically we're at this position where we are paying for more and probably getting less. So we pay two costs for garbage. One, we pay the collection. That is a fixed by contract rate. It does go up each year, but it's by contract. And then we pay tipping fees, and those are just how much garbage do we have, how much recycling do we have. Another thing that people might know is that we will no longer get recycling for free. So great advantage in the past is that our recycling used to be worth a lot more. China used to take it, they no longer do. And so we're not unique in cities and towns in having to confront the problem that we have to now pay for tipping recycling.
Excuse me, free at the contract to the town level?
So what used to happen.
Or free to the homeowner?
So what to the town. What used to happen is that we still, the town used to still pay money to pick it up, so the original, but they didn't pay tipping fees, and they will now have to. Curbside collection, the new budget is 75,120 more, and that, as you see that's up there reflected on the screen. That's this cost for collecting the garbage. The yard waste disposal. The other big difference between this contract and the previous one is that previously yard waste was picked up 9 out of the 12 months, and now it's going to be less than half the year. So it's going to be 20 pickups plus a Christmas tree pickup. And that's basically because yard waste is still going to be in these ad hoc containers. They need manual labor to pick it up. It's just a lot more expensive. And so to prevent this budget from getting completely out of control, they decided to cut the number of pickups. And specifically the number of pickups in the middle of the summer. So the same number of pickups are going to happen in the spring and in the fall, and it's the middle of the summer that's going to be cut down a little bit. The new budget for yard waste disposal is 57,900 less, so it's shifting things around. Rubbish disposal, these are tipping fees, 37,780 more than what was in the original budget book. Solid fill disposal, used to be called residual disposal. This is the cost to dispose of construction debris from town-owned projects. So these are catch basins, or if they do a sidewalk and they have to dig up some concrete or something, and then we have to dispose of that. Those are those costs. And then that is 55,000 less. Food scrap diversion programs, the current food scrap diversion, this is composting, is at the high school, which is enormously popular. The DPW building, and there are 2 neighborhood locations. One of the things that we keep asking about every year is I think there's interest in the town to expand these neighborhood programs. They do currently cost more than they save us. And the fees from our new composting company have gone up. And it doesn't look like the state is going to mandate this soon. So right now we're on hold. We're not, program's still very popular, still continuing, but we're not expanding it. This is also the reason that Charlotte doesn't really advertise it, because we're sort of at capacity. And if we start advertising, getting more, it could be a problem. I remember that came up in previous years. Hazardous waste, these are fees that we pay to Lexington. When Arlington residents go to dispose of hazardous waste in Lexington, we have to pay them a fee. Material supplies used to be recycling. This is the cost of the recycling center. So the recycling center collects things like TVs, other electronics, styrofoam, big plastic broken things, stuff like that. We pay fees for renting out the containers and for having different companies deal with this stuff, especially the electronic waste. But we also collect money from the town people, from people. So the money that's collected gets put in a revolving fund, and that's not, so this is not like net, the number here is not net of that. So it's in a separate place. The revolving fund has about $39,000 in it right now. Every year, 35,000 of that is taken out and used to support Charlotte and Lon's salary. And that's, Mike Rademacher thinks that that account will continue to be enough to support that.
And you see that in the public works admin.
Right, yes, the
right.
offset is in the public works admin, yes. And then we did get a revolving fund report that showed that, the 39,000. Let's see, I think that is it. So I wish I had more information, but I would like to recommend approval of $5,404,973. Right, yes.
Second. Questions, John?
So if recycling, we're paying tipping fees for that, is that part of rubbish disposal line?
Yeah, but we don't know the numbers yet. It's still being
That didn't go up very much,
I mean, it's still gonna be less, it's still gonna cost the town less than it would for regular garbage, but we still have to be okay.
And an important part of that too is the reason why, even though it's a little bit more, but not what you would think, is even though we now have to pay tipping fees for vendors to take recyclables, there is actually recyclables are actually a commodity that does have value that can be sold, so they use portions of that to offset that. So that's why it's not as high, it's because we actually make money off of it. Well, not make money, but use it to offset.
Charlie?
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair. With respect to the yard waste disposal, during the summer months, we often have thunderstorms and high winds and hurricanes, which distribute tree refuse and other things all over the place. What happens now?
I don't know, I can ask that question. I mean, certainly, if a big tree limb comes down, that's not, the town does go around and collect those, right? That's not,
Well, oftentimes the stuff winds up in the yard waste.
so people gather it themselves, yeah. So what I was told is that people it won't be as frequent, it'll be every other week rather than every week. That, for example, won't be forever, so people will probably keep their yard waste in their yard for longer. So they'd have a,
So it's not.
like I right now have a full bin of yard waste right now in my yard.
So the question is, during the summer months, is it stopping or is it just?
No, it's less frequent, so it'd be maybe, I don't know for sure, but it was mentioned once, it could be every other week rather than every week.
And in the fall and the spring is more frequent.
That's the feeling is that those are really high volume and that it makes more sense to have. So yeah, so as I said, I've had, a bin of stuff in my yard, we're just gonna have more of that happening in the summer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ellen?
In the discussions, was there any consideration of more radical approaches, pay as you throw, municipal composting, privatization, things like that? Was there any out of the box thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, pay as you throw, as you know, has been discussed in
Yeah,
for years. Yes, and the town has, years ago has come down against that. I don't know if you survey people today, I think that would be the same. Composting right now is an expensive option. So it's not that people aren't interested in it, but it would cost a lot
Municipal
more.
composting, where the compost bin of 33, a serious thing like.
There is, right now.
No, I mean
Oh.
a real composting plant. Where you put
Composting, in the municipal, I see.
A lot of towns are putting in municipal.
Got it, not just if somebody else picks it up.
For both
from
food
a
and
bin.
yard waste.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I would suspect land is really dear here. You need a lot of land to do that, right?
Well, yes, that's what our brother does. So.
Oh, yeah.
It's very cost effective than some conditions, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess what you're saying, there wasn't any real out of the box thinking.
There is not a lot of free land, honestly. There really isn't. Like Ryder Street was free and now it's not. Yeah.
Okay.
That's my guess, but yeah.
Other questions? Alan?
Just quick, what does the new system start for picking up curbside collection with
It's a July, it's the next fiscal year.
July
and-
1?
July 1, yeah. And I was told that bids will be dropped off at people's houses, they will have to pick them up themselves. What happens with the old bids though, that's not clear. I think that people might have to deal with that and bring it in someplace.
Carolyn,
So composting is more expensive than trash collection.
Right now it is,
Okay.
Yeah.
Because normally composting is your food scraps are
Yeah,
the
they're
heaviest
heavy.
thing, the heaviest thing you're throwing out.
I mean, yeah, so, there are a few cities and towns in the Commonwealth that do this, and that's been their experience. So as of today, and it could get, efficiencies, could be different in a few years.
Just quick on that point too, a lot of companies that are doing the municipal composting, there's a lot of consolidation going on, like in the trash collection, so consolidation generally means prices go up.
Right. Actually, I have to tell you, the student article that had the composting, there were a few places that signed up who ended up not continuing because they felt it was too expensive. So they've gotten a subsidy and then they decided not to.
John, and then Grant.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the dates a little bit. So you said it's gonna start July 1st of the
Yeah.
fiscal year. Is that in like 2 months?
Yeah.
So
Yes, there's a lot of work that has to get done.
that's basically gonna limit the yard pickup and things like that. It's gonna be less pickups effective July 1.
Yes, I don't know for sure, but I don't know.
And then I just wanted to clarify, but then next year, that's when the big rollout's gonna be with the new barrels, the new so in other words, we're not gonna get like new trash cans in the next 6 weeks.
Yes.
But we are?
Yes.
This is all gonna
Yeah.
happen?
Yeah, so
Really?
I mean, it is really late because there also has to be tremendous amount of outreach. People have to be told about this. It's very quick.
Yeah.
It's 3 months, 3.5
Right.
months till
Yeah.
July 1st.
But it is a short time. I mean, and everyone's gonna be upset and it is what it is. Yeah.
Grant.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. It's sort of the same, question.
Right.
Grant has the floor.
No, never mind.
Sorry.
Never mind.
I'm sorry.
I'll pass.
Any other questions?
Whatever you guys.
All right, we have a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Right, unanimous. Insurance.
Okay. And of course, it seems to be crashing on me. No, that one's open. Okay. All right. Anybody need another minute to get to the insurance page? Okay, we'll start.
158.
So. Do I do the motion first and then you have questions? or
No, present your budget, and then when you're finished, then you can make a motion, and then we'll take questions.
Okay. So, the group health insurance includes it includes town and school. And there are a number of line items within that. The first one, Medicare penalty, is when we switched from 2 GIC in 2012. Anyone who was retired at that point had a penalty, and because they're still in the healthcare system, in the GIC system, that penalty happens every year. That penalty costs less than the Medicare, so we leave it the way it is. And those penalties will disappear over time as people die off. And so that's what that number is. And at the moment, it's fairly flat. It's some years it goes down, that isn't necessarily will continue, but it's a fairly flat number. The opt-out program is families and individuals can opt out of using the healthcare if they have a spouse or if they're under the age of 26. and they're still on their parents' plan. The opt-out program is going to be the state has offered us to redo the limitations of it, and so the town, as of this coming year, will be increasing advertisement of people opting out. I forget all of the exact details, but by having them opt out, we save a lot of money. And so we are now a lot more people are allowed to opt out, and so the town will be encouraging that as an option. The other thing that happens though, when we have a recession, is you see opt-outs decrease because a spouse or parent will lose their health insurance and then they come on to the town's plan. So those are some of the large variables. The health insurance is the health insurance, and that's a huge number and it's a huge increase. And I did the numbers, and between 2023 and 24, it was only a 2.2% increase. Between 24 and 25, it was 11.2% increase, and this year it's a 12.33% increase. And that is primarily driven by what's going on in the market. I didn't get numbers for further back. It used to be that health insurance went in a 3-year cycle, so it would peak and then it would come down again. We'll see if that happens. If you want me to get extended numbers back, I can. But that was a significant increase, and it's primarily driven by the costs of the insurance, not an increase in employees or anything like that. The federal Medicare withholding is oh, here it is. This is it's a 2.9% tax. The employee pays half of it and we pay half of it, so we pay 1.5%. It's a blended average over the previous 3 years. And when the employees receive a COLA, this amount increases. And that's the primary driving force of the change for the past 4 fiscal years. The percent change has been dropping. And it's because we haven't given as much of a COLA raises in the past 2 or 3 years. That's why the percent change is lower. It was a 13.5% increase, 23 to 24, a 10.4% increase, 24 to 25, and now it's a 7.57% increase. So that may shift depending upon the COLA, and the number of vacancies can have an impact as well, the overall number of vacancies. The next line is the flexible benefits plan, and this covers HRA or health reimbursement account, which is an administrative fee that we agreed to pay when we transferred to the GIC, and the fee has remained fairly flat over the last 4 years. Next one is workers' comp, and the driving force on workman's comp, and there's a letter in here, tends to be health costs, medical expenses, because there are far more complex tests and complex treatments that people can be getting, which cost more money. So that's one of the driving forces there. And employee mitigation, so this is a $200,000 fund, and we have been spending most of it. And so it has to stay at 200. So this year we have to put in 150 to get up to that 200. Now at some point we'll be spending more than 200,000 every year, and then we'll have to make a decision about whether or not we continually ask for money from the cash reserves, or if we increase that amount to 225, 250, 300, and the issue about doing that increase is then we're tying up more cash. And the question is, are we gonna use it? So that is group health insurance. Any questions? Oh, I can also talk about the offset, sorry. The offsets are on the next page. Or there might be a couple pages later, and of course my computer switched. Let's see. Oh, yes, it is this page. So the offsets are at 12.68% for much of the town. The DPW that is not water or sewer, their offsets are much higher, the 50 and 62%, and then 20% because there's less close relation to water and sewer, and burr is a little bit more. The DPW water positions are, the offset is 100% for that staff. The blend, let's see, the denominator includes the school, and so that's where school gets included in this. The offset is split equally between water and sewer, and the enterprise and retirement funds pay their own employee insurance out of their revenues. So as health insurance rates go up, those fees that those enterprise funds collect increase. And then on page 7 and 8. Sorry, that's not related to offsets. That's something else. Any balance remaining from the group health insurance taxation total returns to free cash. And let's look at the rest of these pages one at a time. So the third page is, with the blue line across the top, is simply a breakdown of each plan and whether or not the current employees are on an individual or family plan. And again, those are dollar amounts. And if you drop down to this next list, you have the senior plans, same division, the opt-out individuals, and then the last batch is the savings that we receive from opt-out. And that's assuming that people are on either one of those plans, which was probably the middle of the average of all of the plans. We go to the next page. Any questions on that page?
I'll just go ahead and finish group health, and then we'll open up for questions. So just keep
Okay,
going,
all right.
explain the backup and.
The next page with the yellow line, those are simply monthly payments. They are the actual payments. And if you look at Medicare penalty, you'll see between November and December, it drops by $175 about, actually it's more than that, it's like. That is because somebody died. And so then the costs went down. And if you look across, just below the yellow line, you'll see it's Medicare penalty, opt-out group life, the flexible HRA, the group health, and the Medicare withholding. And so that's another way of looking at all of the numbers. If we go to the next page, these are the actual full costs of each health insurance plan, individual and family. It is before we split between what the town will pay and what the employee will pay. So that gives you a sense of what we're paying out. You go to the next page. Oh, and there are clear rules within the health plans that the GIC requires. It needs to be a low deductible, and with the PPO and the POS, there has to be a broad use. So if you're looking at these numbers and they seem really high, you probably have a higher deductible and a more narrow use of your plan. The next page is the current FY 25 actuals that have been paid out, which is why there's no numbers in starting in March. And there's the town share and the employee share, and then the information simply goes across the board. The next page are all of these values are dollars. If you look, you'll see the name of the insurance, and then a little bit further over, you'll see the product category, and the HMOs are more limited. The PPO, Harvard Pilgrim Access America, is the only national one, and they vary between limited, regional, and broad and national. And they're not in any kind of order in that fashion. The first two columns of groupings, there's 3 columns of groupings, where it says 15% contribution and 20% contribution between an HMO and a PPO. These are employees who've been working for the town prior to 2012, before the GIC started. They are the only ones who are allowed to choose either 15% or 20% contribution. Anyone hired after we went to GIC pays a 25% contribution. As people age out or choose to get employed elsewhere, the total numbers in the first 2 columns will decrease, and the third column will increase. However, the employee will be paying more, so overall the town will pay less. Next page is the exact same thing, but for the Medicare group. And in the Medicare group, pre-GIC, they're all set at 15%. Post-GIC, they're all set at 25%. So they're basically, those 2 pages are showing you the same information. There are obviously less choices with the Medicare. And those Medicare are Plan B supplemental plans for the retirees. The next page with the funny little blue squares is the employee health mitigation, which is also the HRA. And if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see 85,000.76. This money has to last until September, even though the fiscal year ends in June, because people have 3 months to submit their information and their paperwork. And so that's why the other numbers are higher at the end of the year. So that's what still is available. And that is health insurance. And then we go into liability.
Do you have a motion for health insurance?
Yes, I move that we approve group health insurance taxation total of $25,464,906.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions for Carolyn? Chuck and then John.
Thanks, Helen. So, thank you, Madam Chair. My question is about the long-range plan's forecast of insurance expense.
Which page are you looking at?
So I'm looking at the long-range plan.
Oh boy, okay.
There you go.
Okay, go ahead.
You probably can answer, but it's a tough question, so you probably can answer it, because it's probably more to do with Alex's question, but in 2026, we forecasted a 10.8% increase in insurance. We're coming in at 11.7, so.
No, 12.3.
Or 12.3.
Oh, I'm sorry, for FY5, you're right, 11.7.
11.71, so it's a little bit higher than what they forecasted. But then in 2027, they're forecasting roughly 5.8, 2028, 3.9, et cetera. So I asked this when they were here, like, how do you go from these huge increases to all of a sudden we're down to like, hey, something that's reasonable? It doesn't seem.
So in the past, remember how I talked about the cycles? They're basing it on past information, like any forecasting. They're gonna have to change those forecasts.
Really, you think so?
Yeah, 3%, that's not gonna happen again. 5% will probably happen again. 5 to 10% will probably be where they need to review those forecasts. That's, you know, I mean, that's just, I'm making that assumption based on what knowledge I have as someone with a healthcare MBA.
Yeah, they're showing 4% from 2027 through 2030.
They need to review those forecasts.
Right, okay, all right, great, thank you, that was my question.
John?
So quick question, so the only thing we self-insure for is workers' comp, is that correct?
Well, and which one is it? The flexible benefit plan
Okay,
is sort of a within there is this sort of reinsurance. So if somebody, their deductibles are only set at 1,000 and 2,000. Gone are those days in most people's lives.
Oh, yeah.
But once they hit those numbers, which happen really quickly if you spend the night in the hospital, you have to have some complex testing. They have a reinsurance plan within there. And that's the one where we're getting up to the 200,000. And so that's where the reinsurance is, or self-insurance, sorry.
Got it, so a relatively small portion of this budget is self-insurance,
Right.
relatively small. Yeah, that's what I wanted to confirm, thank you.
Josh?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think just a point of information, because of COVID and Ozempic and other things, insurance costs have spiked right now, and maybe they'll level off.
Right, yes, exactly, but
We don't know, but I think
yeah,
that's
but
at
I
least for
think
the
they
last
will.
12 years.
I don't know that they'll go down to 3. Maybe they will.
Needles don't go up.
Yeah.
People insure go.
I was just curious, you know how much we give people who don't take the insurance? Like what bargain we're getting out of
Yeah, the
that?
numbers are, hold on, opt-out program. 2,000 annually for an individual, 4,000 annually for a family.
That's a really good deal for us.
Yeah.
Annie?
Yeah, so just so everybody has some history here, going into the GIC, getting away from self-insurance was a huge drop in the cost of insurance in 2011. And it came as a bonus right on top of an override, that's why we didn't have an override for 9 years, et cetera, et cetera. And for a long time, the insurance increase every year was somewhere well below what we were projecting. We continued to project 6 or 7% for a long time, and we were getting 3% increases and so on and so forth. So I think Josh was right, there have been some reasons why costs have gone up now. And yes, we will have to readjust the 5-year plan, but nobody is being blithe about those projections in the sense of like just assuming it'll be better next year.
Right.
We just haven't readjusted for the new wave of information. And certainly the 5-year plan gets adjusted to reality as we go, and that tells us what's coming down the road. So I have to assume Alex will make those adjustments before we do our next meeting.
And
around
again,
the 5-year.
between FY '23 and FY '24, it was only a 2.2%
Yeah.
increase. I checked it multiple times.
Yeah.
Peggy?
So, thank you, Madam Chair. This is really probably my naivete, but, the opt-out program, you say it's increasing the numbers of people who are taking advantage of the opt-out program?
At the moment, it isn't. Because one of the things I said to her is, why is that number going down? And she said, because there used to be a limit as to who could qualify for the opt-out. They've recently changed that limit, like in the last couple of months, I guess. And so the town will be encouraging more people to opt out, those who can.
But I guess what I don't understand is, like, why is the budget amounts decreasing over the years?
Because those are actuals, the first 2 are actuals, and then the budget, we didn't know that was gonna change. This year, those insurance rates are fixed. You may get somebody, I don't know that people are allowed to switch mid-year, so it may not be that starts until next year.
Okay.
Because they have to have a change.
Yeah.
Somebody in the household has to have a change for that to happen. So they can't do it until next March anyway.
Okay.
Paul?
And I assume it's true that when the opt-out goes up, the insurance goes down,
Yes.
it goes down by even more than the opt-out.
Opt-out goes up, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a winner.
Other questions on the health insurance budget? All right, there's a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Any affirmative? Any no votes? Any abstentions? 1 abstention.
You know, I'm sorry. Can I change my vote to an abstention? I apologize again.
What's
Look
the,
over to
what's
Dave,
the number?
I
Yes. All right, so it's 16.
Nudge me ahead
Oh,
of
is
time.
it
1801.
1801?
1702.
Yes.
Please, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Carolyn, liability.
Okay, I included the offset, so we're gonna go right down to liability insurance. So the first one is insurance premiums. Hold on, let me get to that page. So insurance premiums really is property insurance, and it's for both the town and the school buildings. You're wondering why on earth did it increase by 32.49% this year? And that is because for the last good number of years, both the Arlington High School buildings and the DPW buildings were included in their construction budgets. They were in project management budgets. They were not here. Alex had the MIIA, which is the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association, who works with cat at risk. Reran the numbers because both buildings are now open to determine if it was made more sense to bring it all inside again, so that we're covering the people who are in the buildings and the construction people. And it made significant sense to bring it back over here. So that's what you're seeing. You're seeing all of that, both the buildings and the people in it and the construction workers until they're done are now here. But that also tells you what the rate's going to be going forward with, cost of living increases, cost of doing business increases. So that's our foundational number now going forward. And so that's all of that information. And as I said, the risk will likely flatten out for the next couple of years. We did, because we were bringing over those buildings, they had every single building assessed again. And to make sure that everyone was starting out at an accurate rate. So every year they go through them a little bit, but this year they did an extensive review of every building to get the risk numbers accurate. So we shouldn't see any problems with that come up in the next few years. The next line is called insurance, and insurance really is liability insurance for the select board, the school board, the town and school upper management, and the town and school lawyers. So if somebody brings a suit against any of them, that's what this money is for. The unemployment compensation, we've had some terminations. The annual amount, 150, covers those costs as they arise. Over the next 2 years, we'll see if the increase is really, the actuals are really close to the 150, because as you notice, if you look back before, it's still below 100,000. So we want to change that down to 125 if we can. And then the last one is the liability offset. And interestingly enough, the offset comes from the interest off of a town trust. And that town trust is the town buildings trust fund. And we usually make well over 20,000 in interest off of that. I'm gonna need to drink some water. So if you notice, the offsets have been flat at just under 21 or just over 20 and a half. And the interest we made this past year was 28. So there's plenty there to cover that difference. And at the moment, the plan is to keep that the same going forward. Any questions?
You have a motion.
Oh, the motion is, I move that we approve liability insurance taxation total of $745 and 230,000.
Second,
Yeah.
all right, questions, Paul?
If someone slips and falls on the steps, which insurance pays for that?
Probably, property insurance. Probably property insurance.
The budgets for the insurance, is it just the premiums or do they factor in deductibles in any of these, or is that paid separate? The deductibles, if you had to file a claim, would that be taken somewhere else?
That's a very good question. I don't know for sure the answer. I would assume it includes the deductible, but I could be wrong.
Maybe you can check.
Yeah.
Other-
Actually, I can text Karen because she's looking at her phone.
Any other questions for this budget? All right, there's been a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. When you get that answer, Carolyn, just let us know.
I'll let you know.
All right, water and sewer.
Not prepared to present tonight, actually never committed to present. I just got the budget today, and we'll meet with Alex tomorrow. Briefly, and waiting for questions or answers from Mike Rodemacher. So I'd say Monday.
It will have to be Monday and will have to be after schools and disabilities. And whatever, there are a couple of other warrant articles we'll have to handle on Monday to wrap up a balanced budget. So prepare for a long night on Monday. All right, tonight, let's go through the warrant and do what we can. I haven't heard anything from the assessors, so we will report on Article 15 at town meeting. When the schools come in on Monday, we'll ask them about Article 21. Dean, Josh, and Peggy, can you just let schools know, we'd like some information on Article 21. We may not take a position on it, but we'd like to hear what it's about. Article 45, PEG access. We have a budget. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the PEG access budget? Does anyone have a motion?
I wasn't clear if they changed what they're asking for.
What do you mean, change what? This is their budget. The budget they have every year that they present to town.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the PEG access budget? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Any negatives and abstentions? 1. 19 yes? 19 yes. Wait, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 in the affirmative, no negatives, and 1 abstention.
Article 45. Parking benefit districts, Article 46. Michael, I'll turn this over to you. Before you start, I checked with Alex and there's no need to change the parking budget that we discussed.
Right, I received from Alex McGee email containing a number of different attachments laying out the total amount of money in the parking fund and a list of all sources that it comes from, as well as where it goes out to. And he was very helpful in answering my questions about ticking and tying parking fund budget of expected payments to the different offsets in the budget that they related to. All of the information in the budgets that we have in front of us for offsets from parking match what the parking fund has for the money that they're paying. So that was good to see.
So do you have a motion, Michael?
Move endorsement of the parking fund budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the parking benefits district budget.
So this is so in our book, page 69 is the parking budget. This is not what we're voting on?
Right.
That's correct.
We are not voting.
That's not
We are
what we have.
voting on the parking district, roughly what, four?
The fund which holds approximately $700,000, in excess of $700,000, and commits on its own direction to paying a number of things, including benefits within a defined district, offsets of various budgets that we have, salary items and budgets that we have already received.
So last time I pulled this up, outgoing was the offsets, which was easy to tick and tie, and then there was I think a large number that was just called encumbrances, 300,000. So I don't know if I have the latest, is it revised version?
You should have gotten this,
So
which
that came to
details,
us today or something?
which details the expenditures.
Sorry for the late time.
No, I'm just trying to get caught up. I think on Monday I pulled it up and it said 300,000 encumbrances. So I guess my question was gonna be what are the encumbrances?
Those are the listings of the actual expected expenditures within
Right.
the district.
Yeah, I think the encumbrances are in last year's budget, the things that have been obligated but haven't been paid yet. There weren't any encumbrances in the proposed budget.
Got it, so encumbrances is going backwards.
It's an end of year thing.
And then to see forward, I have to pull up this document.
Right, so don't budget it, but if we get an invoice and haven't paid it yet, there's any encumbrance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's only like in the immediate preceding year.
Yeah.
Anything else, John?
No, nope.
Other questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any
I'm
abstentions?
gonna abstain just because I really haven't looked at it.
All right, all,
It sounds like a lot of money.
all in favor say, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 in the affirmative. Any negative votes and abstentions, 1 abstention.
It is a lot of money, and aside from what we just received in an email, it's superior for us.
Yeah, yep. Although I guess we just endorse it, you know.
All right, Article 58. We voted on Monday a sum of $15,161, but there was a motion to give the chair the discretion to change that number if it needs to be changed. It needs to be changed, and since we're here and I know John is worried I might do something crazy, I'm going to ask for a motion for reconsideration on Article 58.
So
Second. All right. The new number is $10,815.17. So it's down. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes, it's $10,815.17. Is there a second?
Second.
I see.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
One abstention.
all right, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 in the affirmative. Any in the negative? Abstentions, 2.
1702.
Alright, we did water bodies.
You wanna do the police advisory board?
We'll get that in a minute. We did community preservation. We did Harry Barber. We did 62, 63, we're up to 64 ACMi. What is the will of the committee?
We need to redo the motions we had.
We had a motion to table and that was the motion that carried, so,
I would remake my motion for $100,000.
is there a second? Second. Are there any other motions?
Point of information, I made a motion for 200,000, but really wasn't quite clear. Was this a revised budget that came in at a lower number? It seemed like the original one was 800, and this was like 640 or something.
680.
But maybe I'm
No.
missing a little bit today.
Seems like they didn't match.
Can the chair refresh what the ACMi people were asking?
200,000.
They were asking for 200.
They're looking for 200,000. Elton.
Just perhaps to add a sort of friendly amendment. In the comments section that the finance committee looks at this as a short-term help until they can take over their own.
Yeah, that's not even an amendment, it's the spirit of my motion.
Okay, I think we vote for it, that should
We
be
should clarify
part of
that,
it.
thank you.
And to answer a question that it might have been you, Josh, who asked, when we last discussed this, where this money is coming from, it will come from the override stabilization. It will lower what we'll have available next year to full fund. Other questions, comments, discussion, John?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote against it just because I think that, you know, they make it sound like they're kind of, it's almost like a quirk that their revenue is going down. I think the revenue is going down because fewer people are watching cable television. So I think it it's kind of doing what it's supposed to do. Less money's coming in. They do really need to scale down, I think. That's just the way the world is going. So I'm gonna vote against it. I don't think it's the town's obligation to prop it up.
Charlie?
Yeah, you almost said what I was gonna say. I can't vote for this. I mean, we're facing an override coming up. They didn't come forward with any proposal to do fundraising of any substantial expenditures. They didn't come up with an alternative budget to run down to the bare minimum of their obligations. And it's not gonna get any better, so I think it's not the appropriate expenditure of town funds.
Josh, and then Chuck?
Thank you. Well, I would just say that, again, all public access stations all across the country are all enabled with the same legislation, which was a share of kind of cable television fees. At the time when that was enacted, there was no streaming. There wasn't even a concept. So to say that, why are they so messed up? It doesn't make sense to me. The legislation has to catch up, and obviously we're kind of in a messed up national situation. And I guess in Massachusetts, there's a consortium of access stations, and they're trying to change Massachusetts law so they can put a fee on your internet service or your streaming services, because it's really the same thing. I have a feeling people are probably have more eyes on the screen for more hours than they did when this was originally enacted. So to say that the eyeballs are drying up, it's just the funding source, right? Secondly, I think that it's my expectation that kind of everything's available online. That if I want to go and look at the video of the finance committee or the CPA or whatever, I just kind of assume it's all there. This is a service that they're providing to us. Yes, they're getting salaries. Yes, if you look at their salaries, I think they're pretty modest compared to the rest of the town. Yes, we're giving money to the skate park to replace the concrete, which may or may not be needed. I think they're providing kind of an invaluable service for the town. I don't think they can raise an additional $100,000 at the drop of the hat this particular year. I'm not clear on what this budget is that we got, if they're changing the request from us or not, based on is it the same thing? They've given to us, the most recent budget is for the same ask of $200,000.
No, I think they had to give us a balanced budget. So they gave us a balanced budget based on the income they're receiving currently, but they would be able to afford additional positions if they get this additional money. That's my.
So they still would like the $200,000.
I believe so. What's their norm, sorry.
Anything else, Josh?
Well, I would certainly, I don't know, I don't feel like the committee's going in my direction, so I won't make the motion for the $200,000, but I strongly urge everybody to give them the money, because again, they're providing a service for the town that I think is kind of invaluable and kind of expected by our citizens. And it's not really, it's their fault because they did not anticipate it, and it's not going in a good direction. They need a little bit more guidance and leadership to try and get it to a better place. And I think we need to encourage them to do that. They're hiring a development person, but I don't really blame them for their situation. Again, just Google it, it's happening to everybody. And there's a drying up of any kind of local news sources. So again, we need them more than ever, I think.
Chuck?
I'm gonna vote no on this, for some of the reasons that John and Charlie stated. It's a very tough reality. It's a reality that's been, I think, coming for a while. And it's gonna require a different management approach. It's gonna require a prioritization of what they do. It could even require a different sourcing approach for providing some of these video feeds. So, and I think it's either face it now or face it later, and I think we should face it now.
Carolyn, and then Alan, and then Sophie, and then Annie.
What is the level funding from last year? I know this is an ask of an additional amount, but what was last year's budget? Well, what are
Funding is that they don't get money from us.
Yeah, so they have never gotten money.
No, they don't get money.
No, they don't get money. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the email they sent that was posted for 10 hours ago says that they see their total cost as $415,000 as their total costs. Their personnel is $185,000. So $200,000 would cover their personnel. Or no.
Where are you getting your numbers?
So there was an email that was posted about ACMi 10 hours ago on the SharePoint. That's what I'm looking at.
The email that said 415,000 was what it would cost to do the bare bones service of school committee, town meeting, and select board.
And right now, what do they get from their fees?
600.
680.
Did we just approve that?
Yeah, we just approved that.
Yeah, we just approved
Okay,
that.
that's the pay we just approved. Okay. So,
Anything else, John?
No.
Alan?
I endorse giving them what I call seed money, buy them some time. I think maybe they didn't see this coming fast enough, maybe they weren't quite prepared for it. But I agree, I think it's a very valuable service. When I see we just endorsed a spending of about $500,000 of taxpayer money to build a skate park, and we won't provide $100,000 or $200,000 to let them get their act together, hire someone to raise money. I think there are a lot of alternative sources, but they don't have much time. So I look at this as buying them time, and I agree with Al. Should be, I think, some sort of comment saying that this is meant to be seed money to buy them time. It's not an ongoing assessment. But again, I look at some of the other things we spend money on, like $250,000 for a community garden. Now, we built a really nice community garden without a penny of taxpayer dollars. It seems like a lot of money to me compared to $100,000 to preserve a valuable resource. So I'm gonna vote no.
I get your point, I just wanna clarify that that's CPA money that's restricted.
It comes
They
from,
have to spend it.
85% of it comes from taxpayers.
Right, but they have to spend it on certain things, whereas general fund has to cover a lot more, so.
Agreed, but I still consider it to be money coming out of my wallet.
So,
Yeah, the CPA funds, I mean, I agree with the concept of the skate park, but I think I'm stuck on the idea that we don't get to decide the individual projects. There's another board and committee that does that, and we get like the whole, we don't get to cherry pick projects. And I think if they need 200,000, I'm not sure we're helping them by giving them 100. What are they gonna do with that? If they don't have the other 100, they've got their hands tied, they're gonna, I feel like it's all or nothing in my viewpoint. And then I have a question, like we're on Zoom right now, is that Zoom or ACMi?
It's Zoom, ACMi's not here.
So it is possible to have these committee hearings recorded, which we are doing now, and posted online without ACMi. We're providing the services available without ACMi.
So where's it get hosted? On Zoom, you can, it's there forever?
It's recorded and then up to the town, I guess, to decide, or the committees decide to post.
You sent it where?
I sent it to ACMi.
It's not posted anywhere.
But it could be for the town for cheaper than some.
Alright, anything else, Sophie? Alright, Annie?
Okay, so I'm looking at last year's budget, and their projected revenues last year were $756,000. So their revenues are dropping steadily. I think, I just wanna be clear, as someone who deals with budgets for lots of different organizations and fundraising constraints and so on and so forth. If ACMi has not begun to ramp up a real fundraising effort, and they haven't, and clearly they know they need to do so because they have a budget for a fundraising consultant. I don't think it's a full-time position, it's a consulting position, which, you know, could be a couple $1,000s a month for somebody to work 20 hours a month, and that would do a lot for them. Okay, if they've got a really good person. I'm paying a consultant right now $1,000 a month to help your Arlington. Trust me, it's making a huge difference to how much money we can raise. It's filing grants, it's arranging events. Anyways, so the idea behind this bridge funding isn't that it's gonna rescue them, it's that it gives them an opportunity to rescue themselves. If they can't get their act together in a year, I don't see if there's anything we can do to help them after that. For all the reasons stated, this is general fund money. We can't suddenly add a major expense to our general fund. We all know that. We all know why we can't do that. Okay, but I think given what they do, it's worth offering them the bridge. And generally, you know, there are times when you hand somebody tells you they need $1 million budget and you tell them, hey, I can only give you 750,000, that they then just can't do the project. This isn't a project budget, it's an operating budget. They can do a part of what they're saying they're going to have to cut with that money because it's operating. They can afford a couple of the positions that they would otherwise have to cut. The critical one is a fundraising consultant.
So if they get their act together and they take this opportunity and we're clear with them that that's what the opportunity is, I think it's good money. Next year would be good money after bad if they don't like pull it together. And they may or may not be able to, right? It's a lot of money to fundraise and they have, you know, they literally have from, you know, this time this year until this time next year to like figure out what the campaign is and start it. So I don't know, but I think what they do is important enough to give them the chance to continue a full operation.
There are questions or comments over to you, Christopher?
Yeah, so I guess a few things I'm thinking about. One is that this floor of like 415,000, it sounds like they have to spend that.
Yep.
No matter what, because those are the three, town meeting, select board, and school committee that they have to do. So I'm kind of wondering, if the revenue keeps drying up, they're gonna have trouble doing that. I do see the point that there are fewer news sources. I do think recordings go up to YouTube, and I've gone to ACMi and looked at them. So I do think that's where they're getting hosted eventually. And I can also think of not every major town board that makes major decisions that affect the whole town right now is doing a Zoom, doing a tune-in meeting. And ACMi is recording one of them, and so I do wonder about something like that, where some of these other boards may have to modify. ACMi is not recording them, so like you show up there and that's it, or else you have no way of knowing until the minutes come out, which may or may not be good, which may or may not be for 3 months. So I struggle with this. I do see the concern about good money after, will we just, will this be enough to help that?
Peggy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I found that in one of the school budget meetings that I attended, was real interest in having a teacher use the facilities at ACMi, and I didn't understand it all, but I felt like there was the real possibility of a class. And so I'd hate to, I'd like to see that happen. And I think there's potential there.
Is the school department willing to pony up some money for ACMi?
They didn't cover that. We can bring that up next week.
Yeah, they discussed it. I believe in the current budget, there's a stipend for the faculty member to teach this class. And I think that when they asked Dr. Holman if she wanted to pony up some money, she said, I'm reluctant because I don't really have control over how it's spent. So I believe that's there.
And that's true for us too, because this money, we have no control over how it is going to be spent. It's interesting that the select board and the school committee, which are the two of the three organizations being films covered, are not playing on Alan and Jennifer.
Let's give an example of one of the situations Topher was mentioning. After the finance committee meeting on Monday, I went over to the community center where the redevelopment board was meeting. An ACMi volunteer came at 6 o'clock with a trunkload of, like 6 microphones and a camera and things like that. He was there until midnight cleaning up. The redevelopment board was debating and discussing things like changing R1 and R2 zoning all over the town. It's some very, very important things that a lot of people are interested in, a lot of affordable housing, things like that. That probably wouldn't have been recorded or be available streaming right now if it hadn't, if the budget had cut back, it probably would not be capable of doing things like that, which I consider to be very important services to the town. I think it's just a good example of this kind of things that we would miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have many of the same sentiments that we're hearing, which is that I think that it's a very important resource that the town has, similar to a public library. It gives transparency to government operations. But one thing I think hasn't been mentioned yet is that they don't just cover meetings, they do also do a lot of original reporting. So, I was on the school committee, there were little vignettes about the schools. They record candidates, there's an explainer videos, there's, discussion with the town moderator type of thing. So there's a lot more than just reporting a meeting that sort of couldn't be put on Zoom. So, and I think it's a important resource to have.
Carolyn?
I just wanna point out, when Dave and I started was when they started recording at these meetings. Cause I remember saying, we all have to lose 10 pounds because you gain 10 pounds when you're on TV. And so that was 12 or 13 years ago. And for those of you who are newer, at the time, every time we'd show up, there would be mics set up for us. This whole room would be set up. There'd be a camera with a cameraman there. And they sometimes had a second camera. And the sound was better. The quality of the meeting was better. And the other thing I wanted to say, so there's that, the qualities of our meeting on Zoom is not the same as that. But the other thing I wanted to say is I'm hearing a number of people saying, well, we don't know what they're gonna do with the money. They're running on a shoestring as it is, and they're doing a pretty darn good job. I'm not concerned about them not spending the money appropriately. They've been spending money appropriately for decades. And they've barely been paying themselves. And so I also support seed money, but really with okay, it's time to come up with some creative ideas here. So that's my 2 cents.
Anybody have anything else before we take a vote?
Point of order, please. I didn't hear the motion being, could you ask the clerk to read the motion again?
Motion is for $100,000. Anything else?
Well, we should just add that the motion is for $100,000 with a clear direction to ACMi that this is 1 year's seed money with no expectation that we'll be able to repeat the investment.
All right, all in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. In the affirmative, opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, opposed, abstentions. Michael? 1. It passes 12-5-1. Let's talk about the civilian police advisory committee. Alan.
I have a couple of conflicting thoughts on this. I have never seen a board more unprepared to defend its budget. On the other hand, I had a great deal of sympathy for somebody who was shoved into a position at the last minute with no support. 3 people quitting in January, one of which I know, but was legitimate, but it doesn't give me great confidence to turn over public money for this, considering. On the other hand, it is a body of the town. It is a committee with a responsibility to carry out certain actions. And it is my hope that they will get their act together and get fully staffed and all that. Looking over the budget, which doesn't actually add up, but that's another issue. I see 3 elements that I could support for a total of $2,700. I think the $1,200 for training from the Arlington Police Department makes a certain amount of sense. I think the $500 for the national organization as a way to increase education and such makes sense. And I think $1,000 for the community outreach makes sense. I think the others could wait until perhaps next year, we see how they spend their money, we see that they have a full functioning committee, and maybe at that point, we could go up. Most committees in the town start off with 1,000 or 2,000, and that's it. So, I'd like to make a motion for the 2,700, for the, Police Advisory Committee.
Second. Jordan.
I'm sorry, what, did you propose, that 2,700 includes?
1,200 for the Arlington, training from the Arlington Police Department, so that's basically to our own department. $500 for joining an organization, which is a cheap way to get a lot more information to the people, and 1,000 for community outreach and engagement, which I think makes sense. And if they come back next year, they spend it wisely, they show what they want to do in their full committee. We'll deal with that next year, so 2,700.
Thank you, I would agree with that.
Anyone have any, Topher?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree with you that I don't know, we don't know exactly that the training is for that. That's my thought, is what the training money is. But it sounds like this is a little bit like seed money, again, like they're kind of having to reboot. I'm not sure. And they picked out the things that seem to have the biggest impact in them getting started.
Sophie.
Just a clarification, but we don't tell them how to spend it, right?
Right.
So, okay, because I was along the same lines, I was thinking 3,000, but I had a different combination of numbers, but they do what they want with it, right?
Alan was explaining his reasoning for 2,700.
Just making sure.
But should we, in the vote, explain that?
No.
So we can't even give them some guidance? No.
Here's how we got.
Well, I mean, when we talk to them, if you talk to them, you could say the logic behind it, but the vote is 2,700.
They can watch the.
If,
We could also, again, offer a liaison to give them some advice if they want it about how to better present their needs and how to think about their committee in the context of all the other committees, or I don't know, something like that.
I think right now they need help recruiting members.
Right.
Any, David?
Can I ask, how big is this committee supposed to be?
According to the website, it's supposed to have
How many?
8.
And how many do they have presently?
Well, she doesn't know if the website is up to date, which there's a very good chance it isn't. They have 5 at the moment. And they're missing people from disability, isn't Harry? Fortis still, right, so they're missing someone from disability, they're missing someone from the Rainbow Commission, they're missing someone from Human Rights Commission, and is Kathy Rogers still on the select board?
Kathy Rogers is not on the select board. She may be the select board appointee.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay, all right, so, but it appears that she's no longer either, so they need another select board.
Sounds like to me,
Pretty significant.
sounds like to me that, well-intended committee was formed, but there's lack of interest to serve in the committee.
No, there wasn't lack of interest, there was some tension.
Are we talking?
Well, so David said, so your point is that you feel like there's lack of interest in the.
So far, I'm not saying that with this lady that was here, that might generate more interest.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, it almost sounds like the disability committee that we've been having difficulty getting members to join that. All well intended. I'm not against the committee itself, I'm saying, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of interested people wanting to serve.
Well, and the reality is they have to be appointed by these other groups. Someone has to be appointed by
Right.
disability. They have to be appointed by the Rainbow Commission. They have to be appointed by HRC. Council on Aging has a vacancy. And so the question is, do the groups even know that they need to be appointing someone? And right, and the answer may be no.
Well, I would assume that where they formed a committee by virtue of one article at town meeting, that these groups have been notified.
Yeah, but have they been notified that people left and they need to?
I don't know, I don't know if you
So
have a
for-
meeting.
Well, this, I mean, the history shows that they've had, some groups have had trouble, like appointing people in the past, that's why it took so long to get started, so we may be seeing a reprise of that.
Charlie?
I'm troubled voting funds for a committee that doesn't know what their charter is. They don't have a membership. I can't understand how we can tell town meeting to supply this group with funds when I think it's too early. They just don't know what they're doing here. They're not organized.
Anybody else? All right, Michael.
Hard to keep people interested without specific jobs to do and funds to do that with.
All right, so we have a motion, it's been seconded for $2,700. All in favor, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Those opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Any abstentions? All right, 2,700 for the Civilian Police Advisory Commission. Let's see if we can do some more warrant articles. Article 69, cemetery funds. So we've got, what's the number for DPW? This is 2,400, 240. Cemetery.
There was a bunch of money in the capital fund as well, right?
Oh,
It's got 240 offsets, is that all from perpetual?
That's typical in the cemetery fund.
Remember what it is?
There's usually like 10
Yeah,
grand.
240 is in the cemetery, but then there's, yeah.
And how much from capital? Does anyone remember?
It was approximately $90,000.
Right, that's, I think it was $90,000.
90?
Yep.
Yep. So will someone make a motion to transfer out of perpetual care 240 for cemetery and 90 for capital?
I move that we transfer 240,000 from
Perpetual care.
or lots of
Perpetual
graves,
care.
perpetual lots of graves, and 90,000 from or for
Capital.
capital.
Okay, so second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? I am still waiting for the overlay reserve number. Free cash, what's the number? Alan, do you have a number in the long range plan for free cash?
Long range plan I have so out of date that I wouldn't trust it.
But the free cash should still be the same though.
Yeah.
It's basically half of the certified.
Okay.
I see 10,298,997. That, right?
Is that the certified amount?
I see,
No, it's probably the,
I see 10,255,994 in this long range.
What is the date of that?
It's not dated.
I'm looking at the budget book.
Okay, so
I will check with Alex.
Or
these used to be dated,
10,298,997.
they're not dated lately.
I will check with Alex, we'll vote on that on Monday. We'll vote the fiscal stability fund on Monday, we will vote the salary reserve number on Monday. And I think that is it. On Monday, we have the schools coming in, that will be a big part of our meeting, as it should be. Josh, you've already circulated your budget, right? You're not yet voted on budget.
Yeah, he sent out the most recent one today.
Okay, so, we have things to look at. When we finish that, we will go to water and sewer. Are the distillery people coming?
They are voted on their budget tonight at their meeting. They haven't decided whether they're actually coming to present, whether I'll present for them. They're still, but we'll have materials by tomorrow, they said.
If anyone is coming in for that budget, we will do that budget after we do the schools, and then we'll do water and sewer and the 2 warrant articles. Then we'll finish up with minutes, and I think that, and then the final balancing out, and hopefully we can get that all done. At that point, Alan will be soon after circulating head counts, right, Alan? Then we'll get the report ready. Hopefully we can finish everything on Monday. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye. Aye.